get started. I'm like, oh wait, I had one more thing to do. Hello, welcome to Wednesday edition, a rare Wednesday edition of Blind Eye Live. I'm your host, Hunter King, Blind Eye himself, owner and proprietor of Blind Eye Media. And man, things went crazy yesterday afternoon. We talked about the Russell Wilson trade, Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams back in Green Bay. We have the specifics, or at least the believed specifics of the Aaron Rodgers deal. 4 years, $200 million, $50 million annual average value on this contract. $153 million in guarantees in this contract. So, Aaron Rodgers got the bag. On top of that, Davante Adams at minimum is going to make $20 million this year. The thing for the Packers is it did drop Aaron Rodgers' cap number for this year. So, they do have that going for them. We have doubly sad news for the Seahawks. Like we said, Russell Wilson got traded yesterday. I guess either during the show or after my show, they announced that they are cutting Bobby Wagner. So just a double hit for Seahawks fans. But they have Jordan Brooks, and Brooks has been really good through 2 seasons. Hello, Cat. Without fail, I go live. Now's when he wants attention. So, like I said, so Wagner gone. The Arizona Cardinals cut veteran linebacker Jordan Hicks, who's been really good for them the past 2 seasons, but their last 2 first-round picks have been on linebackers. So, and they want Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins to be their linebackers of the future. And guess what? I get it. So they're going to save $6 million off that move. I'm trying to remember how much money the Seahawks are saving by cutting Wagner. I believe it's upwards of that. I want to say they're saving like maybe 8 or 9 million. Pardon me. I meant for this show to be earlier today, but I was having some internet issues. Turns out they were my fault, apparently. Or maybe my cat's fault, more like it. But, my cat likes to rub up against things, and I think he rubbed up against something, because it didn't look like anything of a bit. He actually doesn't bite my wires. That's one thing that I love about my cat, is he doesn't just, anything dangling, he doesn't just jump for. He's actually a pretty good cat. Just timing sometimes. He is currently glaring at me from across the room. Anyway, so today's show, Carson Wentz has been traded to Washington. He is now a proud Washington commie. Join the Red Scare, everyone. And the Washington faithful definitely could be called the Red Scare, because that's what they're going to get every time they see Carson Wentz not give up on a play. It's admirable, but at some point, man, just take the sack or throw the ball away. You know, this man sprained both ankles on the same play. He was in the grasp, and he fought and sprained his ankles. Like, if he'd just gone down, he'd been fine. I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone spraining both ankles on the same play. However, this is still an upgrade at quarterback in Washington, because Carson Wentz at his best, and there were people through stretches of the season that were raving about Carson Wentz as quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. By the end of the season, everyone's like, oh, he's the reason they didn't make it. It's a little bit of both. So, but there goes. All of my predictions for like quarterback movement continuously like just getting upended. I thought Aaron was going to go to Denver. He stayed. Although that was the most logical decision he could have made, mind you, is to stay in Green Bay. But I thought he was going to Denver. Russell Wilson then goes to Denver. I honestly didn't think Russell Wilson was super likely to move this offseason. Now Wentz gets traded to Washington. I thought the Colts were going to try. I didn't know if it was going to happen. So Washington is out of the quarterback market now. Although I guess they still could draft someone, but I think that shows what they thought about this year's quarterback class. If you're talking, obviously, Denver's out of the quarterback market now. Green Bay's not going to be in the quarterback market. And even if they traded Rodgers, it was probably going to be to push Love up. This is an interesting spot for Jordan Love. Do the Packers just sit on him and continue to develop him? Do they try and trade him for value? Because there's a lot of people who think Jordan Love's a better quarterback prospect than any of the QBs in this class. I disagree. From a tool standpoint, sure. And he had some really good college tape, but Carson Strong's tape's better. Sam Howell's a better prospect. I would say that Jordan Love is a better quarterback prospect than Malik Willis. And he's practically the same age. And he's already been in the NFL 2 years. And I'd probably take Kenny Pickett over Jordan Love. The tape alone. There are concerns about Kenny, but, I mean, is Love up there with these guys? Sure. But there are guys I would take over Jordan Love in this draft class. And I liked Jordan Love coming out. I wasn't on the he's a better prospect than Justin Herbert train. But I'm also not going to say that I wasn't, skeptical of Justin Herbert, that I thought Justin Herbert was I didn't have him ranked above Tua. And right now he's been better than Tua. And tools-wise, he was better than Tua. But it seems like we're always on this pendulum of tools, tape, or tools, brain power, or perceived brain power. Like, it seems like we're always swinging back and forth on this kind of stuff. Sorry, something but with what has happened with Patrick Mahomes, and arguably also Deshaun Watson, but really Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert at this point. And even to a degree, Kyler Murray. Because, sure, he's not big and strong, but he's got an awesome arm and incredible mobility for the position. So, but it seems like we've really swung back towards toolsiness. Oh, I left out Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry. Which, I was higher on Lamar Jackson than pretty much everybody else I was seeing. I thought talent-wise he was worthy of being selected number one. Now, I had Baker number one in that class, and he went number one. Because his tools, and he's proven this at the NFL level. Like, his arm is better than people thought because he's a small walk-on quarterback. That walk-on status has haunted him because everyone's like, well, because he was a walk-on, he can't be that athletic. Baker's a solid, mobile quarterback. Like, he has solid mobility, above average mobility for the position, at least historically speaking. Well, historically speaking, he might have good mobility for the position, but definitely above average. Really good play extender. He was really accurate in college, in the system that he ran in college. And he has a pretty nice deep, arm strength. Pretty nice deep ball. probably, I mean, his arm's better than Kenny Pickett's. And I'm not using that to knock Kenny Pickett, by the way. So, I thought Baker was the number one quarterback because I thought he had the highest floor of all those quarterbacks, which I think still holds up as at the time, or from the time. Like, he was going, at worst, he was going to make it, in my opinion, as a guy who could be a starter, like, be around league average. I thought that was Baker Mayfield's floor, and I thought his ceiling was he could be a great quarterback. And many other people saw traits of Drew Brees, Brett Favre in his game. He didn't have Brett Favre's arm, but he had a better arm than Brees. But he had that Brett Favre moxiness to him. He had a little bit of that gambler to him, but he had Drew Brees' accuracy, underrated play extension ability, and quick release, And I had Lamar Jackson as my number 2 because I thought his floor was lower, but his ceiling was in my opinion, was the highest of any of the quarterbacks because the guy has borderline almost as good of an arm as Josh Allen. Like, his arm talent is in the top tier of quarterbacks. Like, he's up there. Like, Lamar's got a great arm. And he can use that arm on the run. But his mobility and escapability, he could keep any play alive. And if the Ravens could get him a big receiver, and Bateman's not as big as some people thought. He's got Andrews, but if you had like a Mike Williams type receiver in Baltimore, and I would say I'd need to look at the free agent class. Like, if say Allen Robinson somehow ended up there, that's not going to happen. I don't think, because they've spent 2 first-round picks in the last 3 drafts on receivers. But down the board in this draft, there are guys like Alec Pierce of Cincinnati, Jalen Tolbert of, I think it's South Alabama. I'm trying to think. There's a couple other guys. You throw those guys out there, because like Pierce is 6'3", 211 with a 40.5-inch vert and 4.33 speed. That guy can go up and get it, and he shows it on tape. You get a jump ball receiver like that, and you give Lamar a guy like that for play extension, a guy who you could just throw the ball up to, other than Mark Andrews, because Andrews is pretty good in those scenarios with his length, and he's athletic, is fairly athletic. He's big-bodied tight end, receiving tight end. But anyway, getting back to where I kind of started with this, Washington obviously wasn't enamored with this quarterback class. So because that's all I can say that is why they went out for Carson Wentz. And they're trying to win now. And it cost them 2 third-round picks. It's not the worst price to pay in the world. But when you think of what they've gotten out of their third-round picks, I think Terry McLaurin was a third-round pick in 2019. If it wasn't 2019, it was 2020. Maybe it was 2020. They got Diami Brown in the third round this past year. I think Gibson, wasn't he a third-round pick too? They're starting running back. Like, they've been kind of nailing third-round picks, in my opinion, for a bit. So those are valuable, but a quarterback that can take a playoff caliber roster to the playoffs is kind of valuable for them. So, and the Colts, they traded like a second and a first to get Wentz. They don't have a first this year because of that trade. They did get 2/3 though. And here's on the bright side, Chris Ballard has done a great job with his draft picks for the most part. No one's 100%, but he's done a really good job down the draft board of just nailing picks. Especially like day 2 picks. Darius Leonard is a great example of that. Jonathan Taylor, another great example of that. Hello, cat. Trying to go through my Rolodex of draft picks here in my head. Michael Pittman, another second round pick. Obviously, they're getting 2/3. I'm trying to think of their third round picks the past few years. Yeah, I'd need to look it up. But if you look all over that Colts roster, and they're guys they either drafted or, I mean, they've been pretty aggressive with their first round picks. Traded a first round pick for DeForest Buckner. That worked out. Yeah, they had to pay him, but that was not a bad decision. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up the news page. We'll get to the NFL Combine stuff because I don't want to go on forever today. I really want to try and make this like maybe an hour long show or whatever. But trade grades. So let me adjust my camera because I gotta slide over so I can read these headlines. Because once again, letting you in on how blind I really am. Colts trading QB Wentz to Commanders. Already talked about that. Talked about Cards cutting Hicks, freeing up $6.5 million. So that's another $500,000. Alejandro Villanueva is retiring from the NFL after 7 seasons. Villanueva was awesome for the Steelers. I believe he played for the Ravens last year. And you see 7 seasons like, man, he retired early. Well, he didn't start his career until his mid-20s. Like, I think he was like a 25 or 26-year-old rookie or something like that because he served for years in the U.S. military. So he's the best kind of guy. The Giants are likely to make a run at quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, who Brian Daboll was one of the reasons that he got brought into Buffalo last year as a backup. And once again, Trubisky fits as a really good style of backup for a Daniel Jones because Jones is really mobile. And Jones is, when he's had time and healthy receivers, he has shown the ability to be a really good downfield passer. That's one thing. Trubisky has an arm, but of course Brian Flores wants his case versus the Dolphins heard in court. It's laughable. We're not going to get into, we're sitting here waiting around on the Watson stuff. I don't want to get into Flores' case because it's a joke. Seahawks cut All-Pro linebacker franchise icon Bobby Wagner. Trade All-Pro quarterback. I'm pretty sure Wilson got All-Pro at least once. But Super Bowl winning quarterback and franchise icon Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Oh, this was a big one. So I noticed that Harold Landry had not been franchised by the Titans. So I thought we were just going to let him walk. End up 5 years, $87.5 million. And I don't know what to think about that because Landry did put up some really good sack numbers for us. But his win rate, his pass rush win rate isn't as high as I would like to see. But if we've got a fully healthy Bud Dupree next year, we got Simmons, we've got Autry. I mean, that's a fearsome foursome on pass rush downs. Like, that's a really good unit. Top 100 guys. I'm going to hit this Wagner article just because I want to see what
You can't be great at
I want to see
everything.
how much money
Nobody
the
is.
Seahawks
What you can do is get help
are
from someone
saving
with
here.
experience. Someone like an
I mean, here's the rebuild. This is an extremely difficult day for the franchise, General Manager John Snyder said. Bobby will always be a Hawk, except for now. This will always be my home. Da-da-da-da. News comes day after. Yeah, but I mean, this was kind of seen last night. I guess maybe it was official today, but Seahawks are moving on from the long time da-da-da. Looking for how much money they're going to save. Let's see. Man, they're really burying this. This move will save the Seahawks $16.6 million in cash and salary cap space, while leaving a massive hole in the middle. Well, they've got Jordan Brooks, 32 in June. And the non-committal comments, Carolyn. It does. I do wonder how much he'll get on the open market, because he's not getting $16.6 million. Because Bobby Wagner, when he signed his extension, he became several years ago, he became the highest paid linebacker in the NFL, and I believe in NFL history. Well, off ball. Not including pass rushing, 3-4 outside linebackers, whatever. It seems that all his guaranteed money was gone. And I do wonder if the Seahawks had reached out to hey, we'd like to keep you, but not at this number. And maybe they decided they didn't want to do that to him, and they just released him. Maybe he ends up back with them if he doesn't get a great offer on the open market. We'll see. But that's big.
The best part about doing things yourself?
I hate these autoplay ads.
It's free.
And that they're not muted. On my iPad, they're automatically muted. Wait a second. Oh, yeah. Duh. Okay. So this is a story I've wanted to get to for a minute, but I saw this Monday evening towards the end of the show, and I ended up not covering it yesterday. So Richard Sherman pleads guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges from July arrest. So we read about this on the show this summer. From Seattle Seahawks and former, corner Roger Sherman, who's most recently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the season, pleaded guilty Monday morning in Seattle to 2 misdemeanor charges stemming from, man, the rich really get out of stuff. Sherman pleaded guilty in King County Superior Court to negligent driving in the first degree and criminal trespass in the second degree, non-domestic violence, as well as an infraction for speeding in a roadway construction zone. By the way, that infraction could have been a felony, if I'm remembering what I read in July right. Also, the fact that this was non-domestic violence is interesting, considering he allegedly did strike his uncle, and it was a family residence. Not that it has to be family to be domestic, because, girlfriends can be domestic violence, whatever. Also find it interesting that negligent driving in the first degree instead of drunk driving. It's amazing what you can get when you can pay for high-powered lawyers. So he had been arrested July 14th after police said he drove his SUV through a closed construction zone, sustaining significant damage, and fled the scene of the accident. Which, there's another thing that he should have been charged for. Fleeing the scene of an accident. Sherman then attempted to break down the front door of his in-laws' home. That's right. Well, see, this was after, allegedly, if I'm not mistaken, he had been at his, or there was an incident before that with his wife and his uncle, I believe, but whatever, or wife and her uncle, which was caught on surveillance. But that's the other thing. He's breaking down his in-laws' door. And it's on tape. Sherman had been drinking heavily. Once again, drunken driving. He was drunk driving. And the authorities know it. We know it. Not charged. And spoke of killing himself. I mean, sucks that you're at that spot, but that doesn't excuse anything. You know, me being on hard times in my early 20s trying to deal with blindness is an excuse for lashing out at people who don't deserve it. According to police reports, his wife, Ashley Sherman, called 911 to try and stop him before the crash along Highway 520. Which, in listening to that call, she called police, but she was like, you know, we're afraid, but please don't shoot him. Please don't shoot him. You know, over the 911 call. I mean, I don't know. It seems kind of... And that's the kind of stuff, like, law enforcement have to deal with, like, in these situations. You know, someone's in danger, or calling them saying they're in danger, in fear for their safety. But please don't put the other person in danger of their safety. So Sherman pleaded guilty as part of an agreement that spares him further jail time. He was given a 90-day jail sentence and credit for 2 days already served. My gosh. He was ordered to pay $825.50 in fees and penalties to the court clerk and $500 for speeding in the construction zone. He also must pay restitution to his father-in-law with the amount to be determined at a later date. And to the Department of Transportation, he'll be under monitored supervision for 2 years. If you or I did this, we wouldn't get off that light. We would not get off that easy. All right. Let's just move on. That just makes me mad. And I'm someone who likes Richard Sherman as a player. Let's get into this combine stuff. So we did the defense Monday. So now we're going to go through the offense. And I'm using the numbers, but there's other things that I'm talking about. What does that say? Why not? So let's look at the QBs. And I'm using 40 times just to kind of... It just gives me a sort. So Desmond Ritter was the fastest of the quarterbacks that ran. Malik Willis didn't run. You know, one thing, I mean, did he need to? No. But quarterbacks with crazy athleticism, it always boosts their stock when they put those times up. So we've got Desmond Ritter. Let's look at Ritter's workout because Ritter was crazy. So Ritter, I've moved Ritter up my board. Because of the injury red flag to Carson Strong, I love Carson's tape, but I'm still worried about his knee. I basically have Ritter and Strong tied at QB3. So Ritter's 6'3", 211 pounds, 10-inch hands. That's really good hand size. A 4.5 240, a 36-inch vert, a 10.7 broad jump, a 7.15 in the 3 cone at that size is pretty freaking good. 4.29 20-yard shuttle. And Ritter's got good tape. He's got some streakiness to his accuracy. He's got a lot of experience, though. And he's, other than Kenny Pickett, I'd say he's the most NFL-ready prospect right now. And I'm going to go through the quarterbacks real quick because I'd rather just talk about the quarterbacks than, because their workouts, a lot of guys looked fine. You know, a lot of guys threw the ball well. Kenny Pickett ran a 4.73. E.J. Perry of Brown 4.65. E.J. Perry's kind of moved up my board. He's a guy that I had not watched because I'm not perfect and I might have just not cared about any of the Ivy League quarterbacks. But I was wrong. E.J. Perry, I think, could be a long-term backup in the league. He's got, decent size. He's got good mobility and pretty good explosion numbers for a quarterback. Like a 4.65, 34.5-inch vert, 12.3 broad, so a 10-foot 3-inch broad jump, 6.8 5.3 cone. That's really good agility. 4.18 20-yard shuttle. Like he can slide. Let's kind of see what Lance Zierlein has like for an overview, strengths and weaknesses. Productive quarterback who became a dual threat playmaker against. Oh, dadgummit. It's in the way. A dual threat playmaker against Ivy League competition. Perry has average size and arm strength, but below average mechanics and consistency as a passer. He doesn't value the football enough as a decision maker and lacks a desired level of ball placement. His toughness and talent as a runner create a tension, as teams might ask Perry to add a few more pounds in order to see if he can become a valuable Swiss Army knife who's able to help in a variety of positions, including special teams. Which, that's interesting. Basically, kind of like a Taysom Hill type. Broad, sturdy frame. Legitimate option for called run plays. Speed to hit chunk runs, scramble. Throws with decent anticipation. Extremely competitive, regardless of game or score. Might be able to play, Taysom Hill role. Toughness, athleticism for special teams. He was the East-West Shrine Bowl offensive MVP after posting 241 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And he looked really good in the Shrine Bowl. And decision-making is something you can improve in. Small hands, high number of turnovers. Yeah. But in that setting, if he was probably so much better than everyone around him, he probably was having to make a lot of plays because other people weren't. Very willing to make a low percentage throw. Has a long javelin toss-like release. That's not great. Poor intermediate accuracy and ball placement, likely due to that release. Quick to bail on progressions to void the pocket. Once again, I'd say a lot of that's to do with the surroundings. That can be coached. Footwork and mechanics create inconsistent delivery. That stuff can be worked on. Like, this is a guy who, very into the draft or as a priority free agent, has some upside. Kenny Pickett with a 4.7 3.40. That about matches. Like, his play speed, like, once he gets going, he probably didn't have, like, an amazing start. His hands, though, 8.5 inches. Short arms, too, but he's got a quick release. 6'3", 217. 33.5 vert, 10'1" broad, 4.29 20-yard shuttle. Didn't do the 3-cone. Let's see what the strengths and weaknesses are. I've talked a bit. See, look at how long this write-up is here. Oh, that's something else. So there's the overview. I'm not going to read through all that because I want to kind of move through this quick. Broke Dan Marino's Pitt passing records. I mean, yeah, but their careers are kind of a little apples to oranges. Comes from athletic family, bloodlines. Okay, good size and all the physical tools needed as a pro. Jaw-dropping improvement across the board this last year, and that's true. He really did blast upward. His TD interception ratio went from 13 to 9 in 2020 to 42 to 7 in 21. A lot of that's because the offense really opened up and his playmakers took a leap too. I mean, Jordan Addison in particular was just awesome as a true sophomore. He probably goes in next year as a likely top 20 pick. Passing scheme required full field reads. That's true. Good recog and decision making on combo route throws. Yep, that's true. To my eye. Potential to get better at recalibrating reads with more work. Sure, everyone can get better at that. Because there are some decisions he made that I'm like, But every quarterback has those. He just had them less often per, so many number of attempts than other quarterbacks. Worked with improved anticipation. Improved anticipation and tight spiral throwing into windows. Velocity to stay ahead of closing coverage. Arm strength to push deep outs without a problem. And that's true. There's a lot of people who've talked about his arm strength. His arm strength, to me, is not in question. Able to extend the play and win on the move with his arm. And that's true. This guy has a lot of movement throws. He's really good off platform. And he has good mechanics throwing on the run. Arm talent to make all platform, like I just said. Elusiveness to escape a free runner and scramble for yards. And he does that a lot on tape. He dodges a lot of sacks, a lot of blitzers. Some scarring from previous protection issues. That's true, but that could be worked out. It's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. He has a very similar thing on tape of bailing from pockets early that Patrick Mahomes had because Mahomes played behind some bad O-lines. Nervous feet and poise can get the best of him despite clean pockets. Yeah, but when he moves from the pocket, he's still poised. He's not erratic. It's not like he goes white as a ghost. This goes with it. Drifts outside pocket rather than climbing to scan. And he shows the ability to climb pockets at times. But once again, last year was the first year he had solid or, fairly solid protection. But there were games where he was snowed under a lot. Feet don't always follow his eyes when throwing. Poor placement and touch added to drop issues. Interesting. I mean, yeah, but sometimes it comes down to, especially when quarterbacks make few mistakes, sometimes those mistakes are glaring in comparison. Because I thought his ball placement was pretty good, but some of the drops, sure. But he's got really good touch as a thrower. Finesse throws into buckets are below average. I guess I need to go back and look at that. Better timing would prevent contested catches. That can be improved. And considering the improvement he made this year, because he improved in all of those areas this year massively. Because I did go back and I've watched his previous seasons, and goodness, he really did improve in all these areas massively, and he took a huge jump this year. It wouldn't be crazy to think that he could take another massive leap again. Can improve at making leading throws, sure. Doesn't throw with much of an expedited release. So his release isn't quick. That just seems like you're just trying to use different words. Like, need to take the incompletion instead of the sack. Sure. That is one thing. He could stand to throw the ball away a little more often. Sources tell us, is he the next Joe Burrow or Kyler Murray, who were early picks after being one-year wonders, or Mac Jones? Some teams will try and make that connection and will overdraft him. That's a lock. Personnel director for an AFC team. Everybody's floating to the negative quotes about every quarterback except Malik Willis in this draft. I mean, that's really what I'm seeing. Like, everyone's getting dragged. I'm so glad that Marcus Whitman, in his latest mock draft, was talking up Sam Howell. Dustin Crum with a 4.75. Crum is one of my favorite, like, later round quarterbacks to just be like, or to turn into like maybe a steady backup type. 6'1", 210, so he's built like a thick running back. Okay hand size. Testing numbers are fine. This guy played at Kent State, and let's just look at this player bio real quick up at the top. He was not it's interesting Kent State was able to grab him because he was a two-time finalist for Mr. Football Ohio in high school. He had 8,558 yards, 103 touchdowns passing, 3,447 rushing yards, and 38 rushing TDs in his high school career. Those are really good numbers. He started twice as a true freshman. Those numbers were kind of I'm looking for some of his numbers here. He played in 9 games as a reserve in his sophomore campaign. So he became the starter going into his junior year. So he's been the starter since 2019. Since after I think starting the second game of the season. Completed 69% of his passes that season in 312 attempts. I hate when they do this down here. For 2,622 yards. Man, I'm having to lean all over the place because I'm so blind. 20 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions. Really took care of the ball that year. And that's when I started hearing a lot of hype about him. Also had 6 rushing touchdowns. 707 yards on 168 carries, which that includes sacks probably. 4.2 yards per carry. First ever bowl win. that season for the program. The Frisco Bowl offensive MVP, 369 yards, 3 TDs, 101 rushing yards and a touchdown. First team All-MAC in 2020, starting all 4 of their games during the COVID season. Ranking 3rd in FBS by completing 73.5% of his passes for 1,181 yards and 12 TDs. That's barely short of 300 yards a game. 3 TDs a game, 2 picks, while also scoring 4 times on the ground. So that's 4 total TDs a game on average. And then Mac, or wait, what was that? Okay. Crum was named MAC Conference Player of the Year in addition to first team accolades in 2021, leading the team to its first MAC championship game in nearly a decade with 3,187 yards on 64% completion rate on 381 attempts, 20 TDs, 6 picks, and a team high 703 rushing yards on 161 attempts at 4.4 yards per carry and 12 touchdowns on the ground. So this guy was their offense. They leaned on him heavily. I mean, 10 interceptions over 3 seasons. Yeah, it's at the MAC level. Don't care. Yeah, one of those seasons, it was 4 games. But, I mean, his touchdown to interception rate is great. I mean, 20, 20, 12. So that's 52 passing TDs in those 3 seasons to 10 interceptions. And then he added a bunch of rushing scores. Very comfortable and efficient in his offense. Takes care of the football. See, this guy sounds like a great backup. Holds safeties effectively with his eyes. Subtle pocket slides to safe launch points. So he maneuvers in the pocket well, which I saw on tape. Courageous to deliver throws when hit is imminent. That's true. He will stand there and wait. And then a slippery zone read runner with wiggle and tackle breaking. Carries his football down by his waist when scanning. Because they like to have the ball up here. He's got it down here. That could be better because it's easier to keep it protected and you're kind of clutched more, whereas you're relaxed here, so it's easier for defenders to knock the ball out. Elongated operation with slower release. Basically, he's got a longer throwing motion, and it's not a very quick release. Didn't see him improv and change arm slot when needed. Okay. Spins it with below average velocity. Defenders drive and close on out passing windows on him, meaning the ball's not getting there very quick. Will make receivers wait on the deep ball. Predetermined decision making leaves big plays on the field. Struggles to locate backside blitz. To me, this sounds like a great late round pick for a backup quarterback who might turn into a spot starter. And that's what I see on film. That's why he's quarterback number 8 for me. Brock Purdy ran a 4.84. He might get drafted. I just don't see it. Bailey Zapp, a 4.88. It's not awful. A lot of the guys didn't, or there are a lot of guys who didn't necessarily run. I'm going to guess here. Cone with a 4.9. Skylar Thompson with a 4.91. I'm actually kind of shocked that Thompson was that slow. Maybe I'm the moron for thinking he'd be faster, but... And he's got smaller than 9-inch hands as well. Because, I mean, this is a guy who, was used a decent amount in the running game, especially short yardage situations. I'm going to be honest, I am a fair bit surprised that he ran a 4.91. And so Matt Corral didn't work out at the combine, so of course there's no number for him here. Sam Howell did not run at the combine, I'm guessing, as well. But Howell's really fast on tape, and I would be shocked if Howell wasn't, like, if he ran slower than, to be honest, I'd be kind of shocked if he ran slower than E.J. Perry. Like, I definitely expect Howell to be faster than 4.7. I wouldn't be shocked if Howell came in around as fast as Ritter. Like, his long speed, like, he ran away from some people. Like, he was getting it against Duke. So let's move to the running backs. This is a fast running back group, especially for recent years. Pierre Strong, who I wouldn't be shocked if he somehow found his way into the third round after this. I'm going to say he's a fourth-round pick now. One of my favorite down-the-board running backs out of South Dakota State. This guy, 5'11", 207. He's strong. He didn't catch the ball a lot in college. Basically, that wasn't something he was asked to do. In drills at the East-West Shrine game and at the Combine, he looked great catching passes. And you look at the speed, good explosion numbers, 36-inch vert, 12.4 broad. And once again, a theme you'll see is no three-cone or 20-yard shuttle because everyone opted out because it was at the end of the workouts. Let me go back because I didn't do this for the defenders, and that's fine. But kind of looking at these strengths and weaknesses. Big play threat, 10 career TDs of 50-plus yards. Bends and bursts through the line of scrimmage. Dude, I'm so tired of that. I need to check, or sorry, I haven't checked chat in a minute. I don't know if I can find my cursor for my mouse. There we are. Nope. Didn't figure. All right. Finds the center of the rush lane and avoids first-level defenders. Internal GPS finds and offers multiple routes during the trip. Basically, Strong has really good vision, and he is good at moving his head. He's good at moving his eyes and seeing multiple ways that he can attack the line of scrimmage. Can see him make steep backside cuts to find open field. This guy's going to be great in a zone offense, like the Shanahan-style zone offense or the McVay version of that. Or, like, he would be a great fit in Atlanta. Rhythmic runner, able to slalom around bodies when hitting it downhill. Man, I love these. I love these adjectives. Stays a step ahead of open field tacklers with subtle shifts and cuts. Runs with consistent forward lean and finishes with drop pads. And he does. He's really good at leveraging and moving forward with contact. Adequate lead drive to play through uncommitted leg tackles. Created easy situation on rare occasions he ran routes. Needs technique work, but will lay into blitzing linebackers. And that's another thing. He's not afraid to pass protect. Leggy build, not ideal for tight area elusiveness, which is funny because to me that goes against everything that's just set up here. Rhythmic runner, able to slalom around bodies when hitting it downhill. Which, to me, when he's going north-south, he's able to get around people. To me, this first thing, those seem to contradict to me, but whatever. This is what happens when they use all these different terms. It's like, well, what do you mean? Unable to access quick gas after lateral jump cuts. So maybe he's a little more of a build-up speed guy. Interesting. Below average anticipating blocks and creating point of entry. So he could see multiple lanes, but he's below average anticipating those lanes. Opening? Once again, that seems contradictory. Will overthink his reads, leading to occasional indecisiveness. Now that, so he sees multiple lanes, but he's like, because he sees multiple, it takes him a minute to decide. Or it takes him, split seconds to decide. Indecisiveness. That's probably where this comes from. It's not that he's not anticipating, it's that he might be too good at anticipating blocks. So this indecisiveness shows up here. I think this one's the more important one here. Can improve at setting up his blocks. Every college runner can do that, for the most part. Pop into contact is average. Yada, yada. Stiff hands as a receiver out of the backfield. Yeah, that didn't show up in workouts. Stiff hands did not show up in workouts. But he's one of my favorites. I can't do this for every prospect. I need to just go off my tape study. Isaiah Pacheco out of Rutgers, not Maryland. Rutgers. Or Pacheco? Isaiah Pacheco? 4.37. He's still a day 3 guy to me. I want to look at his size. Yeah, he's a little thicker built, inch shorter, 9 pounds heavier than at 5'10", 216. His explosion numbers aren't quite as good. This guy's really, like this guy, you want to talk about a guy who's downhill? He's a downhill guy. Once he busts through, though, he can be gone. Todd Chandler was a big money maker through all this process. 5'11", 204. And he's played it bigger than that. He's a really good receiver out of the backfield. 31-inch vert, but a 10-1 broad jump. 4.38 40. Like, he is fast. I've watched a ton of Chandler. This guy can fly. This guy really showed out at the end of North Carolina's comeback win against Wake Forest. Was a big reason they won that game, and he closed it out. I want to read through his because follows blocks and uses them as shields. He is good at that. Like, he's as fast as he is, as quick as he is a patient runner. Patient, allowing blockers to do their thing. Stays low and coiled to absorb and manage run contact. That's another thing. If backs stay low to the ground, they don't have to be 220 to be powerful. And it's like he does bounce off tackles. He does deal with contact really well. Build up speed once he's in the open field, and he does. Like, once he's got a lane, he can break away, as shown by his 4.38 speed. Pass catching threat with soft, sure hands. That's also true. He and Eric Gray were great and were good receivers. Chandler, while they were in Tennessee, Chandler was usually the third down back. He attacks linebackers down the seam. Catches through heavy collision. That's another thing. I've seen it's like he will hold on despite getting hit. When he's running pass routes, he really catches the ball more like a receiver. Background is a kick returner, and it shows up in his speed. Weaknesses. Takes time to process the lane and hit the gas. I think some of that is he can be a little too patient. I don't think it's a process problem. I think it's letting his blockers do their thing problem. Leggy strides, slow quickness out of downhill cuts. Needs to get pads squared earlier in the run. Lacks suddenness getting in and out of cuts. He's not the most side-to-side agile runner. That's not necessarily a major problem. Average run finisher. Some of that's because he's 5'11", 204. He could probably put some weight on. Play pace needs to quicken through the line. Okay. Average elusiveness in space. Yeah, he's not the most wiggly runner, but for a zone team or someone who likes their running backs to run north-south, Chandler's your guy. He's not going to waste yards as a running back. So he's probably going to be once again another guy in that 4th round range. I could see him end up higher, but Kenny Walker had a great day, 4.38. He solidified himself to me as a guy who likely goes in the 2nd round as a running back. Devontae Price, another guy I've heard or that's been talked a lot about. Florida International. He's got some speed. A lot of people like him a lot of people have him as their top small school guy. I like Strong better, but Price is solid. He's going to be a really good day 3 pick for someone. Once again, no 3-cone, no 20-yard shuttle for any of these guys because these idiots screwed up the combine. Don't put position drills in the middle of those, of the workouts. That was dumb. Breece Hall's testing numbers, though. 4.39, 40-inch vert, 10.6 broad. There's your explosion guy. People are like, there's no first-round running back. I'm like, in years past, Breece Hall would have been a first-round running back. And that's what annoys me with the term first-round running back now is we have guys that would have been first-rounders in years past who aren't first-rounders anymore because of positional value. Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, if they had been in the same draft class as Leonard Fournette, which Leonard Fournette had crazy tape with breakaway speed and just ridiculous power. This combine workout sucked. This is a positional value thing. There are a lot of talented backs in this class. Samir White, who's one of the more powerful backs in this class, 6', 214, 4.4 flat, 10'8" broad jump, 33.5-inch vert. White's there's a lot of mid to late round guys. There's going to be plenty. You can wait on a running back. You don't have to reach for the top guys. James Cook, this is probably your best. This is your best third down back in the class right here. 4.42, 33-inch vert, 10.4 broad jump. I thought he was faster than White. Maybe it's just that he's quicker than White. But his receiving numbers, this guy really does catch the ball like a receiver. This guy is a receiver. This guy, you can split James Cook out wide. And he did that some. They would move to empty sets where they'd put him on the far outside and either force someone to cover him with a corner or move a safety out there. A lot of times he'd beat the safety. Or put a linebacker out there and he'd ghost the linebacker. I mean, this guy would run fades down the sideline and catch them contested. Cook is a quality. He's the best, in my opinion, he's the best pass catching back. Breece Hall's a good pass catcher too. Tyler Goodson of Iowa, 5'9", 197. 4.42, 36.5-inch vert, 12.3 broad jump. I like Goodson. Goodson's another guy that... There's a lot of guys kind of in that same area where it's like, Goodson's going to go on day 3. He could be the guy that pops. I mean, there's a lot of that these days. There are all these solid running backs, and if your scheme and everything around them's good, those guys are going to be productive. You've got Ebner here, Treston Ebner out of Baylor, 5'11", 206. He ran a 4.43. This is actually the fastest running back class in a while that I can remember, because I feel like I've just been seeing a lot of low 4.4s and a lot of 4.5s out of just everybody. But right now, or should I say high 4.4s, like, closer to 4.5. Tyler Beatty, Missouri. And Beatty, a lot of people were talking about him after, I'm trying to remember if it was the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl. He's really low to the ground, 5'8", 197. So that 197 carries better because he's 5'8". Short arms. That's fine, though. He's got some quickness to him. Beatty was productive at Missouri. I'm not as high on him as some of the other guys we've already mentioned. Like, I'd take Goodson over him. Everybody has Cook. I think everybody now has White higher than him. Like, most of these guys up here, except for maybe Peugeot, these are probably, all of these guys are in most people's top 10s from Cook up. Goodson's in a lot of people's top 10s. Pacheco out of Rutgers might be in some people's top 10s now. Jerome Ford. I'm a big fan of Ford out of Cincinnati. 4.4, 640. Like, didn't have, like, the most explosive jumps in comparison to other people, but he's a very smooth runner. I've heard a lot of hype about Rachaad White out of Arizona State coming out of the, once again, I think it was the East-West Shrine Bowl. 6 foot, 214, like another bigger back. And he had explosive testing numbers. 4.48, but a 38-inch vert and a 10'5" broad jump. Some of the best numbers in the class there. But, I mean, we've got a bunch of guys under 4.5 here. And Ty Davis Price ran pretty fast. 6 foot, 211, 4.48. But those explosion numbers, I think, are like the worst we've seen out of any of these guys that we've looked at. But Ty Davis Price had some really big games this season, especially against Florida. He just destroyed Florida's defense single-handedly. I believe he set like a program single-game rushing record. I think almost broke 300 yards. And then we're getting into some of the more, or now we're getting below 4.5. So this is where you're looking for big guys. Ely at 5'8", 189, running a 4.52. Now, Ely's got some decent hands. Decent explosion. He might run faster his pro day, but there's a thing that I really like called speed score for running backs. Ely's not rating too well in speed score. When you're that small and you're running sub 4.5, that's usually not a... That usually does not portend success at the NFL level. Brian Robinson, though, running a 4.52, is different because he's 6'2", 225. And at points last year, some people had him believed he might be 240. Like, this is your big bruising back. And a guy like that running 4.5 or 4.53, And Leonard Fournette, you've seen Leonard Fournette's like explosive ability. Leonard Fournette had like a 28-inch or 28.5-inch vert, ran like a 4.5 or 4.52 in the 40. His broad jump I don't even think was, that's a 9-foot 11-inch broad jump from Brian Robinson. 4.53 speed though at that size is actually really nice. Robinson also easily the biggest guy we've looked at so far. Let's see here. Kennedy Ingram. There's some people who really like Ingram. 6 foot 221, another bigger, stronger back. He ran a 4.53. He had better explosion numbers than Robinson, but his tape's not as good. I think Robinson's going to end up going to the third round. See, Jalen Warren out of Oklahoma State. Like Warren. 5'8", 204. So, out of the guys who are, 5'9" or shorter so far, he's the heaviest built. Carrying 204 at 5'8" is actually really nice. 4.55. That's a little slower than I expected from Warren. But because he's over 200 pounds, at 5'8", that 4.55 looks a little better than, say, Ely, who's, 189? That's a 15-pound difference, which matters a lot to speed score. And speed score is not the end-all, be-all, but it is a really good metric that has worked for a long time. Also, here's another guy, Knight. Bam Knight out of NC State. There's some guy, or I've heard some people who really liked him. 5'11", 209. 4.58 in the 40 though. I mean, for reference, Alvin Kamara only ran a 4.56 in the 40. He's been fine in the pros. But he had other elite numbers, like in agility and stuff like that. And because of everybody opted out of the 3-cone in the 20-yard shuttle, you have to go to the tape to see it. Knight, I think, would have been best served to stay in college another year. Because guys like him and Snoop Connor, they didn't get the Senior Bowl. And they're not, high-profile prospect names. So, Snoop Connor here, the bigger of the Ole Miss running backs, 5'10", 222, running a 4.59, not bad. 25 bench press. You'd think this guy played linebacker. His jumps weren't super explosive. Connor's a power back, but Connor's got decent hands for a power back. So does Brian Robinson. Robinson's hands are better, but in my opinion. Damian Pierce, another guy, he had really looked good in the he looked really good at the Senior Bowl. And then 5'10", 218, really good size, powerful build. And then he runs a 4.59. The vertical jump explosion's really nice to see, though. 21 on the bench is nice. He's a powerful, he's a solid runner. I expect Pierce to go, round 5. And I think he'll look pretty freaking good as, a rotational running back. He's solid. Kennedy Brooks, I was a little disappointed by this one. I really expected Brooks to run a little better than a 4.59. But Brooks is another solid running back. This is a guy who's in my top 10 running backs. If I'm looking at the tape, I still want to keep him in the top 10, but I mean, I don't love running backs who run sub 4.5 and really sub 4.55. Another guy I was shocked by because this was like one of my favorite prospects coming into this. Well, I'll get to him in a second. Tyler Algiere. Another big, strong back, 5'11", 224. 4.6 flat. That didn't shock me. But he's got explosiveness, 10-foot broad jump, 33-inch vert. I mean, those aren't, like, necessarily elite numbers. The broad jumps are is a good number. The vert, like, fine. For his size and his style, once again, he should be a rotational guy. Sincere McCormick, after watching him run the last few years, I really expected a better 40 than this. 4.6 flat really shocked me. And I guess maybe once again, this is, level of competition he was playing against. I was expecting sub 4.5, or at least a 4.5. I could draft a guy in the around 4.5, low 4.5s. McCormick's now going to be a day 3 guy, and he's really going to have to earn his way. But if there are guys who could overcome, these times, McCormick, the thing is McCormick's kind of small, like 5'8.5", 205. The weight's good at that size, but him, Kennedy Brooks, Damian Pierce, I think they can overcome those times and be solid, productive guys. But up at the top here, pretty fast running back class, especially compared to lately. We'll look at the receivers now. And I talked about Monday how fast the receivers were, a record number of sub 4.4 times. I mean, and just great players, or great runs. I thought Pierce ran a 4.33. Maybe that was his unofficial, and then they changed it to a 4.41. Still, a 4.41 is great at his size. It's probably the 6'3" that's made me think that. So 6'3", 40.5-inch vertical, 211 pounds, 4.4, 140. Give me that kind of guy. So you got Tyquan Thornton, who was a productive receiver at Baylor. He's still a day 3 guy, like 4.28 speed. He's a day 3 guy. Velus Jones, his return ability plus 4.31 speed, and I think he's a better receiver than Thornton personally. And he's built well, 6 foot, 204. Like, this guy has a running back build to him. Decent arm length. Like, this guy's going to give you, he's a solid returner. And he's a good downfield player. He was one of the guys who really stood out. Was he at the Senior Bowl or East West Shrine? I think it was the Senior Bowl. Because he was catching some... He had some of the best catches of the entire... from the workouts. Like, he was putting on a show. Calvin Johnson, second. This guy, 4.32. Some people thought he might be the fastest guy at the combine. He's 5'8", 170. But look at the explosion in comparison. Like, Jones was like a 33 vert, and I think it was a 121 broad, so like 10'1" broad. Calvin Austin jumped 11.3 in the broad jump, 39-inch vert, 6.65 3-cone, which is great, 4.07 20-yard shuttle, and a 4.32. Some people are looking at like guys like Tutu Atwell, like these short, super fast guys, they don't work out. It's like you're not getting Tyreek Hill. Calvin Austin is better than Tutu Atwell. He's a full 1/10 of a second faster. His testing numbers are better. And he's a better player. Then there's Danny Gray of SMU, who really showed out with a 4.33 40, 6 foot 186. He's kind of got a little bit thicker version, but he's kind of got that Devontae Smith build. He's got almost 32-inch arms. Really good speed. He came in probably around like 5, round 6 guy. He's probably around 4 guy now. Potentially. Bo Melton of Rutgers really helped himself out. 5'11", 189. I mean, you look at the, and then you look at these other numbers like 4.34, 38-inch vert, 10'1" broad jump, a 6.98 3-cone. That's okay. NFL comparison, Griff Whalen. Oof. He's way more athletic than Griff Whalen, although Griff Whalen's an underrated athlete. Melton locked himself in a draft spot on day 3. Christian Watson, 4.3, 640. Like, you've heard me talk about him on the channel before. This dude's 6'4", and I think a little 6'4" and some change. 208, 32.5-inch arms, big 10+ inch hands. 6'4" with a 38.5-inch vert. 6'4" with a 4.3, 640. He had an 11'6" broad jump. I wonder if they've got an NFL comp. Terrell Inman. Inman isn't even in the same league. Oh my gosh. Inman doesn't have near that kind of speed. Inman doesn't have near the ball skills of Watson. Watson will also get in there, put his head in there, and he will lay out corners and safeties. He will take on linebackers and run blocking. I mean, you're sitting here. This is one of the tallest, longest receivers in the draft. One of the most vertically athletic receivers in the draft. He's also one of the fastest. He and Alec Pierce are probably your two best, like, downfield, go-get-it receivers in this class. Let's see. I mean, and once again, like, really fast class. Garrett Wilson. Wilson probably made himself a borderline top 10 pick. He probably, for a lot of people, he's now the number 1 receiver. A lot of people had him there. I really, I guess I just missed it on tape as just, college speed, but 4.38 speed's legit, and he's a really great all-around receiver. 6 foot, 183, 32-inch arms. That 20-yard shuttle's not amazing, but let's see. They don't have a pro comp for him on here. That's interesting. They got it for some of these smaller guys, but not him. Wilson's really, really good, and I could see a team like the Jets or the Falcons. I think he'd be a great fit for the Falcons. He'd be a great replacement for Calvin Ridley. Chris Olave. I actually thought he was going to be a little faster, but than a 4.39. Some people were thinking low 4.4s, high 4.3s. I thought he was a little faster. But a 4.39 is still really fast, and he's super smooth. He's not as explosive as Wilson vertically, like 32-inch vert. But he wouldn't be the first guy to be super productive after running, low 4.4s or faster with like a 32-inch vert or whatever. Like, Amari Cooper didn't have an amazing vert. Cooper's been extremely productive. Olave has Raiders or Browns written all over him. Like, that's another team the Browns need to take a receiver. Wilson might be off the board. If Wilson's off the board, they should just go Olave. Like, there's your... Because Olave will get open deep with his route running. Pierce might have made himself some money, because I could see Pierce now being in discussion in the second round. 6'3", 211, 33-inch arms. I mean, these explosion numbers are pretty dope. 10 foot, 9-inch broad jump, 40.5 vert, 4.41 in the 40. And they say white boys can't jump. That 3-cone probably to some people might look a little low, but he's not stiff in the root tree. Like, he's the perfect kind of Z receiver type. Like an elite number 2. Like, this is your like he's like a more explosive version of T. Higgins. Skye Moore also did really well for himself. He solidified himself as a day 2 receiver in my book. 5'10", 195. But he's got really, really good tape. He's got big hands for his size, too. You see that. He's got 1.25 inch bigger hands than Pierce, although he's 5 inches shorter, 16 pounds heavier, and his arms are 2 inches shorter. But 4'4", 140, 34.5 inch vert, fine. 12 or a 10.5 broad jump's good. His 3-cone, basically the same as Pierce there. Maybe the exact same. I've already forgotten. And a slower 20-yard shuttle. Moore is a great route runner. He's the guy who could be a quarterback's best friend. He can play outside, but he might be the best pure slot receiver, or slot receiver in this draft. You're looking at him, Austin, you could see guys like Wilson or Olave or even Velus Jones do really well out of the slot with their size. Danny Gray. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Isaiah Watson out of Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa's has been putting out some really interesting, athlete-type players. It's another guy. Isaiah Weston. 6'3.5", 214, 32.5 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands. 4'4", 20 on the bench, 40-inch vert, and 11.3 broad jump. Here's another one of those explosive Z-type receivers. He's going to go day 3, but this is a guy with massive upside. If we're looking at those numbers, I'm trying to think of a prospect recently, there's some guys like Watson, Pierce, Weston here who just big, fast go-get-its. Weston might be a really good option for the Chiefs later on to try and get a bigger downfield receiver if they don't want to spend an earlier pick on a guy like Christian Watson or Alec Pierce, or if those guys just aren't available at the slots they believe they're valuable at. Weston's a day 3 guy who fits that profile. Johann Dotson. Now, this is a guy that people expected to really fly. Some people expected he could be the fastest, not necessarily the fastest, but one of the fastest receivers. 5'11", 178, so he's really skinny. 4'4", 340. People were left unimpressed. 36-inch vert, though. 10'1" broad jump. The 3-cone was 7'2", not amazing. I think he has better times at his pro day because I think he's going to attack these at his pro day. But 4.43 is fine. There are a lot of guys. Justin Jefferson was 4.42 or 4.43 speed just a couple years or just 2 seasons ago. A little bit bigger. He's thicker than Dotson. Dotson's a really good receiver. And if this knocks him to the second round, someone's going to get a receiver that has the ability to really outproduce that draft slot. And we're still sitting here. We're 10 prospects in? No, we're over a dozen prospects in. We still haven't gotten to 4.45. Fast receiver class. Khalil Shakir out of Boise State, 6', 196. This is another guy could play outside. I see him as a slot receiver. Really technically proficient receiver, good hands. Kevin Austin Jr. out of Notre Dame made himself some money at the combine. 6'2", 200 with nearly 33-inch arms. 4.43, 39-inch vert, 11-foot broad jump. a 6.71 3-cone, which that's the second fastest 3-cone of any of these receivers who did the 3-cone. And I think the second fastest 20-yard shuttle that I've seen. That's amazing. Like, that's cornerback fluidity out of the 3-cone at 6'2", 200. That's a better 3-cone time than a number of the corners that ran it, who were smaller. So he's going to be a prime target on day 3. Wan'Dale Robinson, who came in, if I'm just saying from a receiver standpoint, is my favorite slot receiver. He's 5'8", 178, so about the same size as Calvin Austin. His arms are a bit shorter. I mean, he's got kind of short arms, under 28 inches. But 4.4 speed, 34.5-inch vert, 9 foot 8-inch broad jump. 9 foot 10-inch broad jump. But his tape out of the slot at Kentucky, this guy's explosive. I don't see how he gets past day 2. I don't see how he falls to day 3. And it wouldn't shock me to see someone snag him at the end of round 2 who really want a receiver with that skill set. George Pickens, 6'3", 195. I thought Pickens should have come back to school for a senior year. For another year. He's got great tools, but he was hurt this year. The fact that, he's back, though, in less than a year after tearing his ACL during the spring. 4.47 speed. But his vert and his broad jump numbers aren't what I would have expected. 33 inches is fine. 10'5" is fine, but this is kind of like another go-up-and-get-it type guy. And to me, I'm seeing a lot of better versions of that, physically speaking, with good tape in Christian Watson and Alec Pierce. I haven't gotten through all the receivers yet. I haven't gotten to Isaiah Weston, but he's now moved up my list. Johann Dotson isn't a big guy, but he can go up and get it. He does it constantly on tape. Pickens just, and there's a lot of other guys I like better. Let's see. Braylon Sanders out of Mississippi. Sanders is an underrated receiver in this class. Actually, if anything, he kind of reminds me of another former Ole Miss receiver, Emmanuel Sanders. He ran a 4.48. I think Emmanuel Sanders was faster. And maybe a little more explosive, but Sanders has big, strong hands. He looked really good on tape catching passes from Matt Corral. Jalen Tolbert, here's another one of these big go-up-and-get-it receivers. Although he didn't come in as tall as a lot of us expected. He came in at 6'1", 194. People thought he was... But he's got 32.25-inch arms, 10-inch hands, 4.49 40, which it would have looked better if he was closer to, a lot of people thought he was going to be 6'2" and change. I want to say he was even listed at 6'3" in college. But 36-inch vert, 10.3 broad jump, 7.08 3-cone drill is solid for that Z type of receiver. Your X, for differentiation, your X receiver, that's your do everything type guy. Oh, why am I back at the running backs? Velus is more of a Z or slot type. I don't think Velus is an X necessarily. He could play that role in certain situations, but Austin's a slot guy and a deep shot guy. Watson's an X receiver. This guy can do everything, but at worst, he's going to be, I think, a great Z receiver. Garrett Wilson can do everything. Olave can do everything. Run the full route tree, because your X receiver, you want to be able to get open on any kind of route. Pierce, I see as a Z receiver. Moore can play the X. And all these guys could potentially do that. Pierce could really improve his route running and expand his route tree. Dotson's an X receiver type. But your Z receiver, that guy's running deep stuff. That guy's running intermediate in and out breaking stuff typically. Like, he's not running a lot of underneath stuff. My cat's over here meowing at me. I need to speed through this anyway. So let's just kind of go down through here. Some other, because I'm looking for some other guys I like. Jalen Naylor of Michigan State. He was a kind of Michigan State's passing offense entirely this year. He's not a big receiver, but I think he very well could be one of those day 3 guys that just ends up being a solid contributor. But his explosion numbers at 5'11", 186, 38-inch vert, 10'8" broad, you know, solid 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle times with 4.5 speed. It's like, that's a guy who could pop down the road. That's a guy who I see could be like, or at the very least, he's a guy with upside on day 3. But there are a lot of other receivers I would put ahead of him from a tools and from a tools standpoint. Let's see. Trey Turner of Virginia Tech, 6'1". Ooh. Everything outside of his 40 time is like a red flag. And even then, I can't say I've watched a bunch of Trey Turner's tape, though. So, here, let me get up and let my cat out. Sorry, I don't know if y'all could hear that, but man, was he just meowing over at the door. Let me see. I'm trying to find some other guys. Ty Freifogel out of Indiana. 6'1", 204. Like, he's a thick-built receiver. Great explosion numbers. 10.7 broad and a 39-inch vertical jump with a 4.53. There's another guy, day 3. There's a, like, that to me profiles like a Z receiver. Guy who can win with physicality. Traylon Burks, that 4.55 40, he plays faster than that on tape. The dude's 6'2", 225. I mean, he's huge. 33.5-inch arms. And the explosion numbers even. I wonder if he's got some kind of soft tissue issue. Because, like, the 3-cone drill. The guy has, on tape, elusiveness, great change of direction, really explosive. I have a feeling those numbers are going to be better at his pro day and not because they're going to get fluffed. But I'm not worried because 4.55, I still look at Traylon Burks, and when I see him as a receiver, I see a guy who on tape looks like Terrell Owens, Brandon Marshall. Mike Woods out of Oklahoma, 4.55. Not super interested in him as a prospect. Charleston Rambo. I'm kind of shocked Rambo and Phillips didn't run faster. Because Rambo is a long, skinny receiver. And he's a smart receiver. So Rambo's going to be he's going to go round 5 or later. I could see him making a team, and I could see him being like a solid, like, role-playing receiver. But he's just smart. He beats defenders with effort and wit. And then you've got Kyle Phillips here out of UCLA. 5'11", 190, and Phillips will run block. Like, he blocks like a bigger receiver. He's got kind of smaller hands. That doesn't matter. He catches everything thrown his way. And he's always open. Forget the numbers here for him. This is your Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, Hunter Renfrow, who the numbers don't matter. The tape is all that matters, and he's got great tape. And Phillips may end up day 3, because of those numbers. Like, he won't be drafted ahead of Robinson or Calvin Austin. But the guy's legit. I'm going to try and use a different drill to find some different names because there are more receivers than this here. We're looking at the vertical here, and you're looking at like just the crazy or the guys who are just crazy when it comes to vertical explosion in this draft. This is a guy who I'd heard a lot about. Another kind of big, thicker receiver, 6'2", 209, 33.5-inch arms. Ezu Kanma out of Texas Tech. He didn't run the 40. But 36.5-inch vert, 10.6 broad jump. And he's a big, thick guy. Another Z receiver type. Day 3 prospect. And I should say, like, because day 3, that's anywhere rounds 4 through 7. I should say, like, rounds, like, 5 to 7. Come on. I'm looking for a specific receiver. This is the guy I was looking for. Well, there's a couple guys here that I was looking for. So, Demario Drummond. This is a guy I really liked on tape. It seemed like he 6'1", 215, big, thick receiver, like a strong physical receiver. He's a day 3 guy for me. 34-inch vert, 10.2 broad, solid. 4.65 40, not super fast. He plays faster than that. Like, I didn't expect him to fly, but I expect him to be in like I expect him to be sub 4.6. Like, he looked like he had 4.55 speed to me on tape. Drummond's a physical receiver who will make contested catches. I really like him. Personally, he's a day 3 guy who I thought probably round 6 or 7. He's a guy I'd look at. This is a guy who, now, Dejon Dixon here out of Nicholls State. This guy's really good. And I don't care about the 4.6 240. This guy uses that 6'3", 205 size. He's a menace to corners. He's another one of these day 3. You're going to get him round 5 or later. Z receiver types who could be turned into a great number 2 for your football team. Let's see. I'm going to keep looking down here. All right. We're going to move on to the tight ends. The 40 is a good one because pretty much almost everyone runs the 40. So this is a good way to engage this position. Man, I might have to separate offensive line tomorrow. We're going to go quick here. So we have this is another one of these just crazy athletic tight end classes. So we've got Chig Okonkwo, Okonkwo out of the University of Maryland. 6'2.5", 238, nearly 33-inch arms. All he did was a 4.5 240 and a 35.5-inch vert, and he looked great at the Shrine Bowl. Looked awesome at the Shrine Bowl. By the way, the fastest guys at each position offensively, well, should I say at the skill positions, running back, receiver, tight end, all those guys were Shrine Bowl. Every single one of them. And also the fastest corner was Shrine Bowl. Nick Cross might have also been, the fastest safety might have been a Shrine Bowl guy too. But Chig can do it all. Chig's a great blocker. He's a little undersized. You can line him up as your Y tight end, your on the line tight end. He can be an F tight end. Or a wing tight end. He can play fullback. Or some people also call it an H-back, that wing type. Like, this guy can play every... Heck, you might even be able to run this guy as a slot receiver. Like, if you're wanting something in between, like, Kyle Juszczyk, if you're like a Shanahan-style team who wants to have a fullback, wants to be able to pass out of and win in the run game with a running back, fullback, tight end on the field, Chig's your dude. Except he's kind of Kyle Juszczyk on steroids. And he can make catches down the field. Jelani Woods, out of the tight end out of Virginia. This guy, and I believe he started his career as a quarterback. He's 6'7", 260 with 34 and an eighth inch arms. 4'6", 40 and a 24 bench press reps. And the guy can move. Like, this guy's a weapon. He might be the highest upside tight end in the draft. Grant Calcaterra, who started off at Oklahoma and transferred to SMU, 4'6", with 6'4", 241 size. This is your Mark Andrews in this draft. Which, when he was at Oklahoma, everybody was like, okay, this is the successor to Mark Andrews. Daniel Bellinger out of San Diego State ran faster than a lot of people expected him to. 6'5", 253. 32.5 inch arms, big 10+ inch hands, and he did everything except for a 60-yard shuttle. 4.47 20-yard shuttle, 7.05. You look at some of those receivers coming in with 7.1 and above 3 cones. This guy's 253 with a 7.05 3 cone. That would be great for a pass rusher of that size, or good for one. A 12.5 broad jump, so 10'5", 34.5 vert, 22 on the bench, and a 4.63. This guy's a really good blocker. He's got speed and length to stretch the seam. Bellinger made him some money. All these guys I've just said are going to get drafted. I expect Chig and Woods, Calcaterra, and Bellinger to all go day 3. But all it takes is one team to really value one of these guys to draft him higher. Greg Dulcich, who everybody had as kind of maybe the most explosive deep type player out of the tight ends. 6'4", 243, 33 and 3/8 inch arms. Ended up running a 4.69. Some people thought he'd be a little quicker. For his size, 34-inch vert, 10.2 broad, not bad. Another 7.05 3 cone, 4.37 20-yard shuttle, 16 bench press reps is okay. Dulcich has real great ability up the seam, and after the catch, he showed that against LSU. The fact that Bellinger was faster, I think, surprised a lot of people. And now we're getting into Connor Hayward of Michigan State, 4.72. Hayward's kind of like more of a fullback, especially with that size. But maybe, once again, a team that wants a fullback and has some hands, Hayward's your guy. Cole Turner of Nevada. The tight end class, I thought, which there are a lot of guys who did not work out or who didn't run 40s. They just did position drills, so we don't know, like Jalen Watermeyer, Trey McBride, a bunch of those guys didn't run, so we don't know how athletic or how fast they are, except for their tape. Because otherwise, you'd have some more names up here with better times. 6'6", 246. I love Turner's tape, 33-inch arms. He was Carson Strong's tight end at Nevada. Turner, really good hands, 4.76. I thought he'd be a little quicker, but I'm not too worried about it. He's a really good intermediate option. And will work the seam pretty well. Great size and length with him. Peyton Hendershot, 6'4", 250. This is another guy. He started off his career in college as a I'm pretty sure he started off as a quarterback. But 4.8 flat, 32.5-inch vert, sub 10-foot broad jump. I mean, that broad jump number is not bad. But Hendershot is about projection in a lot of ways. And I think he came in a little less athletic than some people had expected and hoped. Jake Ferguson of Wisconsin. Like, Hendershot's kind of a late round flyer. Ferguson is a really solid prospect. Like, he's a technically sound prospect, 6'5", 250. Not like this crazy athlete or anything. But you're looking at a guy who he's going to block. He'll block, and he's solid underneath, like safety blanket type tight end. Jeremiah Hall out of Oklahoma. Let's see, Curtis Hodge is out of Arizona State. Don't really care about Austin Allen either. Jeremiah Hall. Now, have they grouped? Yeah, they're kind of grouping the fullbacks and tight ends together. Hall's more of a blocker type player. Let's see. I'm going to see if there are any other workout numbers that I can get maybe for some of these tight ends. Because if some of these guys did vert. Okay, here's a guy. Isaiah Likely. I guess Likely didn't run the 40. But a 36-inch vert is nice. This is a guy that a lot of people expected to maybe be the fastest guy. 6'4.5", 245, just under 32-inch arms. Likely's tape, this guy runs away from people. He's great with the ball in his hands. He's got I'm trying to think of a tight end who kind of runs like him. He's kind of like George Kittle, but I don't think he's got as much pop behind his pads. That's the way to put it. Conquo also up there pretty high in the vertical. So's Hodges here. And Allen. Let me look at Allen here then. 4.83, 7 flat 3 cone. That's pretty nice. At 6'8", 253? Jeez. You know, Austin Allen as a day 3 like flyer, and heck, he could go undrafted. You can't teach 6'8". And 6'8" with some quickness to him. Whew. My goodness. I mean, that's a big boy. Man, I'm going a lot longer than I meant to. I guess I started my stream kind of late, so. Hodges, 6'8", 257, 34.5-inch arms. 4.85, 34.5-inch explosiveness. That's pretty good. Man, there's a lot of interesting like physical profiles like in this tight end class. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if some of the undrafted guys end up like being kind of decent. Chase Allen, the number 2 tight end at Iowa State, 6'6", 251, 34-plus-inch arms. Didn't run the 40, but he did the rest of the workout. Those are some decent numbers. I think some guys chose not to run the 40 because they didn't want to hurt their draft stock. Weidermeyer's been trending down, and I think he didn't run because he didn't want to hurt himself. Maybe. I don't know. That would shock me. I would imagine his 40 would be good. Trey McBride, though, is the top tape tight end in the class from a receiving standpoint, and he blocks well, too. Like, solid blocker. 6'4", 246, 32.5-inch arms. 18 reps on the bench. Solid explosion numbers for his size and position. But I almost feel like he didn't run the 40 because he thought it might hurt him. Let's see. And that's everybody who did. Man, that's going by the vert. That's everybody. Did Kohler not do anything but position work at the combine? I'm really kind of reaching here because I'm like, Where is everybody? Because there's some names I'm not seeing who I know were invited. Let's look at the bench here. There's Jeremy Ruckert. See, this is another guy I was looking for. I'm guessing Ruckert only did the bench, did 19. 6'5", 250, 32 3/4 arms. Ruckert's a top 5 tight end for me. And, man, I just hate seeing some of these guys not work out. Ruckert might be the best all-around, like, if you're wanting receiving and blocking. Like, this is your... He's not Gronk, but this is your Gronk-type tight end. Or the guy, the best profile of it in this draft, in my opinion. A lot of guys are running 3-cone. Let's see if we get some more guys out of the 3-cone. Okay. We're going to move on to the offensive line. We're going to blaze through this because I don't need... and I'm just going to go through the 40 for the most part here. I'm not going to click on a bunch of guys because I know a lot of their sizes. So this is a fast offensive tackle class. I was kind of shocked that the fastest guy ended up being Dare Rosenthal out of Kentucky. He might have just solidified himself as a day 3 guy. I think I had him undrafted. But 4'8", 40 at, like, you know, I'm going to hit him because I don't have his size memorized because he's not a guy I was looking at. 6'7", 290, tools. The guy has tools. Out of the guys I kind of expected to see, though, you've got a bunch of these guys running just under 4'9". Like, a bunch of guys tied at 4'8", 9. Kellen Deach, he's got tools. His body's not finished yet. He could really fill out his frame. He's really light, but he kind of reminds me of a Brian O'Neill or Colton Miller, who the Vikings and Raiders have drafted in the past and molded those guys into quality starters at tackle. Chris Paul, guard out of Tulsa. A lot of people were expecting good explosion numbers from him. He'll get drafted probably round 4. Trevor Penning of Northern Iowa, 4'8", 940. I think he's basically locked himself into the top 20, if not the top 15. He had a great workout. I mean, that guy's 6'7", 315. Or, no, 6'7", 325 and ran a 4'8", 9. I mean, he's got Tristan Wirfs vibes. Cam Jurgens, center out of Nebraska. Dude's got a lot of tools. I went back to the tape after the combine to kind of look at him at center. And he's definitely among the top 5 centers in this class now. Some people were even talking about him being like a day 2 flyer, like late round 2 or round 3. I don't know if I'm ready to go there, but he's got the tools that if someone takes him in round 3, I'm not going to hate on it. Abraham Lucas made himself some money. I think this is a guy who some people saw as a 3rd round guy, maybe even 4th round. 4.92. He had a crazy shuttle, and I want to show you. This guy had one of the fastest 20-yard shuttles of the entire combine. 4.4 flat, and he's 6'6", 315 with 33 and 7/8 inch arms. Has some of the best pass protection tape of any of the tackles, and he was a right tackle in college. So if you've got a left tackle, but you need a right one, Lucas is a guy who he could sneak into late round 1, but I'm going to say he's a day 2 guy. The Bengals, if they don't like the value, or the Bengals could take him late in the 1st, but if the Bengals don't like the value at 31, maybe he's available at round 2, and you've got your right tackle to go across from Jordan Williams. Jonah Williams, sorry. Shout out to my bud, Jordan Williams. You're great. Then you got Ike Ekwonu or Ike Ekwonu. Just another guy who kind of freaky athleticism. Didn't do the bench. That's fine. His play strength shows on tape. 4'9", 340. A 29-inch vert is great for an offensive lineman. 10'8" broad jump. Or no, sorry, that's not 10'8". 108-inch broad jump. That's 9 foot flat. Fine. Dude's mean though. He's just mean and nasty on tape. He's like Quentin Nelson level run blocker. Dylan Parham out of Memphis ran a 4.93. Parham is my number 2 center in the class behind Tyler Linderbaum. And as far as I'm concerned, Parham's second, third round prospect. Really good. Zach Tom, 4'9", 440. Tom is a really, really solid player who can literally play every position on the offensive line. He's 6'4", 304, 30. His arms are over 33 inches. This guy can move laterally really well. A 4.47 20-yard shuttle. Really nice explosion numbers. A 33-inch vert and a 10-foot 10-inch broad jump at over 300 is nice. 4.94 speed. Like, this offensive line class is fast. Tom can play everywhere. And I think Tom probably just solidified himself as a third-round guy. But Tom's a guy that you can bring in, and yeah, he could start, and maybe you'd want him to start on the interior. But he can be your swing tackle. This guy can be a swing lineman all across the line. That's kind of the way I view... there's another guy. Jurgens can't play outside. There's another guy that I'm expected to see later on. Charles Cross ran a 4.95 40. And he's the best pass protecting tackle in the class. He's got the best pass protection tape. He's one of the top 5 prospects in the draft. Zach Thomas out of San Diego State. Thomas is another interior guy, but he's got really good length on the interior. At 6'5", 308, with his movement skills, I could see him playing tackle, or at least being able to take snaps at tackle, like play guard, but also swing out to tackle. That bodes well for him. He's going to get drafted. Braxton Jones out of Southern Utah State. I've never heard of him. Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa. He's another late-round guy. Put together a pretty good workout. Ed Ingram of LSU, 502. I've got Ingram kind of in that mid-round range. He could go in the third round. I've got a fourth-round grade on him. Cole Strange out of Tennessee Chattanooga. This is a guy who really looked good during the Senior Bowl. He's got great positional size and length for the interior. Really strong. Another nasty blocker. He's a day 2 pick for sure. So rounds 2 or 3. Matt Maletzko, North Dakota. Heard some people talking about him as an interesting day 3 pick. Bernard Raymond had a really nice workout as well, like physically speaking. Guys who are his arms were a little short, like 32 and 7/8, getting down to kind of like but he's 6'6", 303 with really good movement skills, and he's stout. He's a little bit older. Some people have had him in the first round range. I think he's a second round guy because he's like 25 already. But he's got heavy hands. Like violent hands. Austin Deculus of LSU. Let's see. Blaze Andrews, Minnesota. Looking here. Dawson Deaton, center out of Texas Tech. It's day 3 guy. I'll tell you, Zakelj out of Fordham, I've heard a lot of talk about him coming out of, I think he was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. 6'6", 316. They've got him listed as an offensive tackle. Some people think he'll move inside the guard because he's got kind of short arms. Put together a nice workout. For as tall as he is, good functional strength with 27 bench press reps. He's one of those guys that people see as like a day 3 ends up better than his draft stock type guy. Jatir Carter out of Southern. That guy's got some really good tape. He's one of the better day 3 guards. Nick Petit-Frere, a lot of people look at him. You know, he's got all these physical traits. Some people had him in the round 1 discussion. He's long. He's got tools. But I don't know. He's really stiff. And if you're drafting him ahead, even in the 3rd round, to me, he's a 3rd round or a day 4. A day 3 project guy. You don't need to take him before round 4. There were guys who went later, or there were guys who went in round 4 and 5 last year who I thought were better tackle prospects, or just better tackles. Then you got like Justin Schaefer of Georgia down here. I mean, this class. Let's look at the bench press, and then we'll call it a stream. Okay. There's a guy I didn't see. Zion Johnson, that's your best interior player in the draft. I think Zion Johnson is better than Tyler Linderbaum because he's stronger, he's more physical. Linderbaum's a great center prospect, should probably go in the 1st round, but Johnson has the movement. Johnson has the meanest. This guy scheme anything, he can do it. Jamare Sawyer, he played tackle at Georgia. He'll play guard in the league because, he's kind of he's a big prospect. Like, well, he's not as big as I thought. He's 6'3", 221. He's got kind of long arms. But Sawyer's going to move inside, and he could be a mauling guard. Because I think he'll provide more value as a guard than a tackle. Let's see. Marcus McKethan out of North Carolina. Yeah, 27 on the bench. That's nice. He wasn't great on tape at North Carolina. Here's the guy that I was looking for, Luke Goedeke. So this guy's tape, I wanted to watch Bernard Raymond, and I ended up watching this guy almost as much as I ended up watching Raymond. 6'5", 312. His arm's a little short for a tackle, 32 and a quarter. All he did was bench. I don't care. On tape, this guy had 2 of the greatest move blocks I've ever seen. This guy went from left guard, like he was playing left guard, and there was a linebacker who was already further, like he was right over the center. This guy moving sideways while this other guy was moving downhill. He beat him to the edge, to the right edge of the play. This guy has some crazy lateral movement on tape for an offensive lineman. And this guy to me, like I was talking about Zach Tom and him, these are they can play all over. He's got a little bit of short arms for tackle, but he can play tackle. He can play guard for sure. This guy is just your ultimate swing lineman. And you're going to be able to get that guy probably on day 3. I'd be willing to take him on in round 3 because I think he could start at guard and be a swing tackle. But he's going to be great value in round 4. and he might go later than that, is what's crazy. Let's see. Volson, guard from North Dakota State. He's just solid. They're kind of like Iowa. The guys who come out of there, if they're athletic enough to play in the league, they're technically sound enough to play to have a shot. Alec Lindstrom of Boston College. I think he's better than some people. Some people have him rated 7th, 8th, 9th out of the centers. He's not his brother, but I think Alec Lindstrom's really good, and someone in the last 3 rounds is going to get a really good center there. Daniel Falele, people probably thought more than 24 on the bench from him because of his size. He's got really long arms, and I'm not too worried about the by the way, that 6'8", he's maybe an eighth of an inch from 6'9". Don't worry about that. His functional strength, you've got and he's got good feet. It's kind of like the thing with Orlando Brown and Trent Brown. You got to get into a car to get around him. I mean, I'm not too worried there. Bill Dunkel, San Diego State. Let me see. I'm looking for some other guys in particular before we go. And then here's Kenyon Green. Green, 20 reps in the bench. I think some people probably were a little underwhelmed with that, but I would say that the rest of Kenyon Green's workout was really, really good. And for a guy who, his on-field work, he looked kind of, I didn't expect him to do well at the combine. How about I put it this way? These numbers, I'm actually kind of shocked he wasn't slower, and I'm kind of shocked he wasn't as explosive. So, anyway, Kenyon Green, he's another one of these guys. The combine numbers don't matter. Kenyon Green's tape is a late first-round guard. This guy is one of the best interior players in the draft. If you need interior help, if you're the Arizona Cardinals, if Zion Johnson is gone, you should feel okay. The Cowboys should feel okay in the 20s taking Kenyon Green. He's that good. With that being said, that is the end of the show. I've talked plenty. I've gone longer than I meant to. That's the wrong button. Sorry, sometimes when I've got a majorly white screen, finding my cursor can be difficult. There we go. So, with that being said, that's the show for today. I've been Hunter King. This is BlindEyeLive. We're going to get into I don't really have any plans for tomorrow. I guess we'll go in and we'll see if any more extensions like Harold Landry's has been signed by the Titans. I'll wrap up and check every team's franchise tag guys, stuff like that. And we'll start getting into offseason preview. And I'll probably talk some more NBA now. Because we've got a week where there will be some breaking NFL news. There'll probably be a couple more trades. Obviously, Wentz going to Washington was huge. Now Indianapolis is in the quarterback market. So we'll see what they do. They seem to be tied to Jimmy G, which seems kind of like going from a glass cannon to a homemade grenade launcher. One's got a little more bang than the other, but is, gonna shatter. The other is a little rickety, but maybe not quite as rickety, but it doesn't have quite as much bang.